Today's episode is all about your boobs. Find that you're getting sort of ringing in the ears, or things are starting to sort of sag down. Then what normally happens is that kidney energy isn't reaching these top areas of the body. So if the lymph is backing up, if it's too congested in the lymph glands, of which you have many around the breast tissue itself, then what tends to happen is the boobs will also start to become saggy and baggy. Hello and welcome to Own Your Health with me, Katie Brindle. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or please follow it on Spotify, and do share this with your friends and family because it helps us get this information out there. Do also, if you're on TikTok, Instagram or YouTube, leave us your comments and questions and we'll be happy to answer them. So today's episode is all about your boobs and what your boobs are trying to tell you. So before we get chatting about breasts, which is, sorry, let me start that again. So before we get abreast of the issue, sorry, my dad is the king of puns and he does listen to this podcast. So there you go, Dad, that was one for you. So I would like to just put a few little comments at the beginning because it's always nice to get these interactions. So Carwin from the US said, I discovered Katie through lockdown. And Carwin, I know you so well. I've seen you on so many of my lives. Katie helped so many of us deal with stress and fears created by the pandemic. Through a dialogue drenched in candor and joy, Katie instilled traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, methods for addressing the health challenges we were all experiencing. Thank you, Colin. Emma H says, fascinating as always. Thank you, Emma. And Clyonic says, thank you for reminding us of the healing power of nature when all we have to do is take a 10-minute nature break daily to benefit. Thank you, darling. Right, so the main topic today, we're getting all abreast of our breasts. Okay, so the first thing to say is that everything that I talk about here on this podcast is very much connected to the fact that you must always speak to your GP, you must get your breast scanned, and you must always inspect your breasts, okay? So that is the standard information that's out there. Now, let's just go a little bit deeper, because in Chinese medicine, you have some incredible channels of the body that really orbit around the breast area. So let's just talk about energy. Because energy is everything, and energy is before the physical body. So whilst personal trainers and people out there will be saying, oh, there's no muscles underneath, there's only so much you can do. The truth is, if you're working with the energy channels, there is a huge amount that you can do to support your breast health. Okay, so the first thing to know is, what are these channels orbiting around the breasts? Well, in Chinese medicine, we have the 5 elements, okay? Now, the 5 elements are fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And whilst that might sound completely irrelevant, it's not, because there are what we call the 5 viscera. Now, they are key organs which completely relate to those elements. Fire is the heart, earth is the spleen, where are we? Metal is the lung, water is the kidney, and wood is the liver. And those 5 viscera in our medicine are basically center command for your body. Everything else pivots off those 5 viscera being healthy. And those 5 viscera have a relationship to your boobs. Now, the first one is the liver. Now, the liver is an organ which is very much related to anger, frustration, and resentment. And liver energy has a habit of going up. So when someone, if you were a cartoonist and you wanted to express somebody being angry and sort of agitated and hot-headed, you would likely to get them kind of going like this, and their face would be red and there'd be sort of lightning bolts coming out of their head and their hands would be like this, because the liver energy goes up. It rises up, okay? Now, interestingly, the end of the liver channel is directly under your breast. If you think of where your breast attaches to your ribs and then go to your nipple and go straight down to that attachment, that's the end of your liver channel. Now, the first thing to say about that is that becomes quite a handy place for your body to dump, in what I would call landfill, negative emotions that your body can't really process at that moment in time. Let's say you're at work and your boss is being really difficult and they're really frustrating you and you can't say anything about it. You've just got to put up with it and you've got to kind of keep it all under control. It's very possible for your body to then start sending that energy frequency into the breast tissue at that point in time, because these energy channels are flowing and they're flowing through the body, connecting into the body via the connective tissue of the fascia. And the breast is full of tissue, so it's a really good dumping ground. It's not the only dumping ground, but it's a really obvious one. Now, that's not really helped by underwire bras, because underwire bras are kind of conductors. And if you've got energy frequency that you don't really want settling anywhere, you don't really want it to be conducted into that particular area by something else. So the first health tip I would give is to be very, very careful about choosing the kind of bras that you're wearing. And if it is at all possible to avoid underwire bras as a preventative health measure, I would recommend to do so. That's the first thing. So there's your liver channel. Now, over and above that, you have the kidney channel. Now, the kidney channel is above the breast tissue. So the kidney channel goes either side of your belly button, just a tinsy bit, like about 5 millimeters, give or take, depending on the size of the body, but like a finger's width, okay? Your finger's width is roughly the dimension. And so if you go to your belly button and just put your fingers, your 2 index fingers together on the middle of, just at the either side of your belly button, that's the kidney channel. And it goes up, 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 and it goes through the sternum, and then it just goes across into the top of the chest, roughly above where the nipple sits on the flat of the rib cage. Okay, so that's the end of the kidney channel. Now, the kidneys, they are very much about fear. Okay, fear and the energy of the body. The kidneys are also very much connected to the aging process, to the menopause. And often what starts to happen is that fear has a habit of going down. If you've ever felt frightened, you often feel weak at the knees. That's because the kidneys control your knees. And as the aging process takes hold, we start to get weaker in our legs because that's the kidneys weakening. Now, when that weakening sensation is happening through aging and excessive stress response, what starts to happen is that energy doesn't go all the way up because it can't. Because the body will always take shortcuts in order to ensure that the energy is in the organ itself, if the organ's starting to get depleted. So it will start to decrease the energy from the upper side of the body. Now, this has a massive effect on all sorts of things. Kidney energy also goes into the ears. Kidney energy also controls she says, stuttering for her words, the memory. Sorry, that wasn't deliberate, that just happened. I clearly need to do some work on my kidneys. And your hair loss. Okay, so if you find that you're getting sort of ringing in the ears, or your hair is starting to get thin, or things are starting to sort of sag down, or you're starting to forget your words like I just did. In fairness, I've done a lot of talking today, I hasten to add. Then what normally happens is that kidney energy isn't reaching these top areas of the body. Now, that has a knock-on effect on your breasts. So when breasts start to sag, whether that's female breasts or moobs, in the case of male breasts, that's often because the kidney energy. So the two blokes in the room have just literally looked at their boobs. I mean, for goodness sake. I'd like to point out the two women in the room didn't. They just carried on working. We are clearly at peace with our breasts, and they were like, oh, I didn't know about that. Okay, so anyway, all men listening, it's okay to check your boobs, it's fine. Okay, so the point is that when things start to sag, often that's connected to the kidney energy is not kind of full, because we're not feeling young and vigorous. So often with perky boobs, sort of young perky boobs, and things getting a bit baggy and saggy as we get a bit older, that's often because the kidney energy isn't sort of flushing itself all the way to the extremities of the channel. Okay, so what do we do about that? Well, obviously, every single viscera I'm talking about has got a free fact sheet on my website, and I really encourage you to look at them. I have really gone to town on those fact sheets. I've cried over those fact sheets, if truth be known. So please look at them. And please put some comments about how much you like them. Please don't say you don't like them, it'll upset me. Anyway, so the point is that the fact sheet is there to help you. But some quick wins are things like rubbing the kidneys, okay? So you can rub your hands together 36 times, like that. I won't do 36 because it's a bit boring for everyone to listen to me going like that. And imagine them like kind of charged up electro pads, okay? And then zhung, after 36 rubs, you put them straight onto your lower back where the kidneys are, okay? So it's just between sort of the lower ribs and the sort of the upper lower back area. That's where you'd want to put your palms, okay? That is a really useful thing for the kidneys. Also, kidneys don't like cold. So please, please, please wear vests, tuck things in, don't expose your midriff, and don't get cold feet. It's okay to do a little bit of grounding exercise outside, but general sort of fannying around with no slippers or no flip-flops is not a good idea because it weakens the kidneys. So does overwork. So everyone needs to stop working so hard, everyone. We've all looked at each other go, oh, right, okay. Everyone needs to stop working so hard. We all need to try and have afternoon naps, and foot bathing before bed is a really, really good way to nourish your kidneys. But there's more information on the fact sheets. Now, what else? At the side of the breasts, underneath the armpits, just at the side of the rib cage, is the end of the spleen channel. Now, the spleen in Chinese medicine is very much about the digestive system, and it's very much about the transformation and the transportation of food and fluids around the body. I always really slow down when I say that because it's quite a mouthful, and people also don't know what you're talking about. So what does that mean? It means when you eat something, the spleen is basically responsible for the overall command of converting what it is that you've eaten or drunk into actual energy frequency and biological matter inside the body that then can actually get used for energy. Okay, now the spleen also is responsible for muscles and also lymphatic flow. Now, whilst the breast tissues don't have kind of a specific kind of muscle per se in a lot of the fatty cells, there are obviously muscles that go around it, but also there are a lot of lymph vessels all around the breast tissue. And remember that a lot of this energy frequency, or in fact, indeed all of it, is connected from the energy flow into physical actual matter via the fascia, the connective tissue itself. That's where the magic takes place. All of these energy channels I talk about map across the fascia of the body. And this is where antimatter becomes matter. This is that moment in the body. And the spleen is very responsible for sort of the holding of that. So if the lymph is backing up, if it's too congested in the lymph glands, of which you have many around the breast tissue itself, then what tends to happen is the boobs will also start to become saggy and baggy. Okay, so the kidney energy is very much about losing the sort of the shape and things starting to droop, but the spleen is very much things sort of feeling a bit heavy and waterlogged, and a bit sort of, our boobs tend to get a little bit bigger as we get older and they feel a bit congested, is often because there's a backlog of lymphatic flow, which is basically getting connected and caught up in the fascia, which is getting caught up in the energy, which is being controlled by the spleen. So back we go. All roads always lead back to these 5 viscera. So that's also when you start to get things like lumps and bumps, that's definitely to do with the liver, which is responsible for the free flow and the management of energy and blood around the body. And when things are not flowing smoothly, they start to stagnate. Very much connected to anger and frustration, sort of things started to congeal, things not flowing smoothly as they should, because energy needs to flow smoothly. Lymph needs to flow smoothly. Okay, our bodies need to be stretched so that the fascia is getting stretched regularly to enable all of this to flow smoothly. And often we're sedentary. And often things are not flowing smoothly, so they start to lump up and they gather up and things start to sag down and everything starts to get a little bit compromised. So that's the spleen. Last but by no means least, you have the lungs and the heart. Now, the lungs and the heart, those channels begin around the armpit. The lungs are where the arm connects to the shoulders, okay, at the front of the body, okay? And then the heart is, imagine you've got a meat hook going under the armpit, as if I was holding myself up with a meat hook like that. That's so if you put your thumbs under the front of your arm, that's where heart 1 is. So those 2 channels start there. Now, again, they're often picking up the energy flow from the liver, the spleen, and the kidney, because the energy is kind of organizing itself in a specific way. Now, what then happens is that if the lungs are picking up too much negative emotion from the heart, and your heart is feeling overwhelmed, or it's sad, or it's experiencing too much pain, because often our lives are painful and everything feels a bit overwhelming, the lungs will often act like shock absorbers to that, because the body will always protect the heart, which is bang slap between your breasts, and then everything's kind of getting caught up in that area. Now, as I've said, you've got a whole load of energy frequencies all orbiting around your breasts. Now, those energy frequencies feel emotions. So your emotions get caught up around our breasts, and then things start to stagnate because things get overwhelmed. And also the body will use breast tissue as what I call landfill. Because when it doesn't know what to do with all this emotion and you're too busy at that moment in time coping and just dealing with everything you've got to deal with, your body tends to do this thing called holding in latency. It will just, it's like, you know, when you're getting a cold and you've got a really important thing to go to and you think, I cannot get ill. And you sort of dose yourself up and you somehow or other keep going and it's okay. And then the next day, like, oh my God, then it's horrendous. Okay, it's like that. The body basically does have mechanisms where it can kind of just about keep going until you need to give it the opportunity to just relax, and then you can start processing things. And putting things into fat cells is a really easy way for the body to cope with the overwhelm of life. But what we're not necessarily doing is recognizing that and then giving ourselves the opportunity to take a break and then come back to ourselves. So what do we do? Now we've had an understanding about what our breasts are telling us. If your breasts are not happy, that's a likely explanation that you're probably not happy yourself. So one of the things to do is to understand the emotions that the organs control. Okay, so that the liver is anger, frustration, and resentment. The kidneys are fear. The lungs are lack of the inability to let go, and also lack of self-esteem very much sits with the lungs. The earth is very much about trust and not feeling heard and not feeling that you count and that you're standing here and you're here to be noticed. And the heart is very much about pain and basically anxiety. So these are the kind of things that are going to send those organs off kilter. And then that's going to compromise the breast tissue. So there are some easy things that we can do to kind of rectify that. The first, before we even get involved with the physical body, is to do what I always tell you to do. It's really important, okay, to use a gong on your phone. Now, I like the app Mindfulness Bell. There are others, but I like that one. They do a free one, a free gong, but for £2 for a year, you can choose your gong. James is going to play it. That's producer James' gong of choice. I think I've gone for the same one, actually. Now, I set that gong to go every 15 minutes. So for £2 a year to ring every 15 minutes whilst I'm awake is, in my opinion, money well spent. And when that sounds on my phone, it's a reminder to me to take a deep, conscious breath. And all you have to do is just breathe in slowly. So let's all do it in the studio just to kind of get the energy. Just linger at the top of the breath and breathe out slowly. And linger at the bottom of the breath. And it just works, doesn't it? It's just like a magic charm. It's like a magic gong. It's so brilliant. Try and do 3 breaths like that every time you hear that gong. But if that's too much, just 1. It will make such a massive difference to your emotional state. Okay, it really just allows everything to just calm down. The body will use the breath as the easiest way to release emotions and negativity out of the body before it starts to get stored up in physical landfill. So it's the easiest way to do it. So that's the first thing. Now, there are other techniques as well. One of the things that I love to do is to tap. Okay, body tapping is really, really effective. You can use a hand, okay? You can use the body tapper. You can even use the soft body brush as well. So if you're new to tapping, actually the soft body brush is a really nice way to start. Or just use your hand, okay? If you're listening to this and you don't have any of these tools that what she's talking about, don't worry about the tools, just go with your hand. Now, the most important thing is to go to the armpit. So you just put your hand on your neck, okay, and lift up your arm so that your elbow is up in the air. Now take your other hand, always start gently. Okay, I don't know what your etiology is. This is just advice that I'm giving generally. If your body is strong, you can use a loosely cupped hand. But to start with, just use your fingertips, okay, and just pat over the armpit and down the side of the body, avoiding the breast tissue completely. You're going down the sides, so you're on ribs here, and you're just going down the side of the ribs, going under the breast and into the tummy. So you're going from the armpit to the belly button in a nice little curve. Now, if that feels nice, you can up it to a cupped hand, like so. It must always feel pleasurable, okay? Everything I teach you must always feel pleasurable. We go to the pleasure zone in this kind of work, okay? Nothing should hurt. If it hurts you, you're going too hard. If you'd like to use a tool, the tool that I like to start with is actually the soft brush. You can just tap with it rather than using it as a brush. You can use it as a very, very gentle tapper. And then you can, if you want to go to the advanced, you can use the actual tapper and you're tapping down the side of the body like so. Obviously do that on both arms and you will feel the benefit immediately. Okay, absolutely straight away. Now to add to that, an all over body tapping technique would also be really useful. We'll put in the information below a link to my body tapping demonstration. I won't do that here because I've done so many of them that there will be one that you can just follow, which is a 1 minute all over body tapping, which is even better. But if you're just focusing on breast tissue, then start with the armpits and take it into the middle. It's also a very effective way to get a nice waist. So that's the first thing. Now, you can then do some simple breast massage as well. Okay, now please, please, please remember, if you have any contraindications, you must always, always check this with your GP. Okay, this is for general breast preventative health. So the first thing is you can trace circles with your fingertips between the breasts. Okay, and you can do that for about 30 seconds. So what you do is you take your fingertips, put your kind of knuckles together so that your palms are facing your breasts with your fingertips on your heart. Okay, and then what you're doing is you're just going to trace a circle. You're going to go under, round to the sides, over the top, and back down. So it's almost as if you're sort of tracing a sort of figure of 8 around the breast tissue. You're just going to do that for 30 seconds. What this is doing is just connecting to the fascia, connecting to the lymphatics. And it's a really lovely way of calming the energy frequency around this area of the body. So when you're doing this, please use your breath. Use the breath I've just taught you. If you'd like a slightly advanced version of that breath, what I like to recommend is to use the sound FR as you're breathing out. So you go... Don't start with that. If you're new to this and you're thinking, what's she saying? Just start with the breathe, linger, breathe out, linger. Just do that. Once you've got the hang of that, use the FR and sort of imagine that like iron filings of negativity are just going out, because fascia loves soft frequency sounds, absolutely loves it. It's a very easy way to heal the energy. You can also massage under the breasts with a soft pinching movement, okay? And you start at the middle, so go one breast at a time. So you start in the middle, it doesn't matter which side. I've just automatically gone to my right, it doesn't matter. And then you're just going to press under, and then you're going to go up to the armpit, okay? As if you're sort of like a little sort of munching, pinching caterpillar. Go very, very gently. Please don't press hard. You must go really softly when you start. And if you're not sure, don't even pinch. Just press the fingers gently under the breast tissue, just as if you're sort of like a sort of munching caterpillar going along from side to side with the pads of the fingertips. Gently, 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 all the way up to the armpits, okay? Start with that first. If that feels nice, which it will, okay, then you can advance yourself to go, right, well, what happens if I gently pinch? That should also feel nice. Never hurt yourself. Never go too hard. This is delicate, sensitive area of the body, okay? Then you can also, once you get to the armpits, you can do one of my favorite healthcare techniques, which is armpit detoxification. I love it. There's a link to that as well, which is me showing you how to do that. Now you can make your own, okay, which is basically using things like blackened charcoal or bentonite clay. And you can also do that mixed with apple cider vinegar to create your own mask, or Sweet Bee, which is a lovely brand that I really enjoy. Holly, who owns Sweet Bee, she's created a really fantastic armpit detoxifying powder, which you just mix with apple cider vinegar, and you just paste it over your armpits and just let it dry, and it feels amazing. And it is really, really good. I find, to avoid wearing overuse of deodorants and antiperspirants, that I personally will detoxify my armpits a couple of times a week, and then I actually don't need to use anything else. If it's very, very hot, or I'm wearing kind of, I don't know, synthetic clothes, or I've got an event where I absolutely must not sort of show anything at all, then I will add a natural deodorant over and above that. She has at Sweet Bee a lovely deodorant, as does a brand I also love called Ringana, which is Ringana, which is also, all that information is on my website. It's a very, very good quality natural deodorant that I really like. So that's what I like to do for my armpits. But the key is the detoxification. So make sure you're using blackened charcoal, or bentonite clay, mixed with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. And as a tip for that, I have in my bathroom, I treat my bathroom a bit like my kitchen. I've got tools and bits and bobs in my bathroom cupboard for this kind of stuff. I've got a silicone brush, which is like a pastry brush. I've got that specifically. I have cider vinegar. I have witch hazel. I have bicarbonate of soda. I have blackened charcoal. I have a couple of old mugs which haven't got a handle. They've been dropped by my kids, thanks kids. So they now become my stuff up there. I've got turmeric powder. So I've got a little cupboard up there of tools and ingredients so that it's easy for me to use all the time. And I have dirty old flannels. I mean, they're clean, obviously, but they've been blackened by previous use of blackened charcoal, and they're there for this reason. Okay, and I do all of that. I have old towels as well. So I have all this stuff ready so that I can get cracking up there. Okay, the other thing I always have in my bathroom is a foot bath, which can be nothing more than a humble washing up tub, but mine's actually a little Japanese one made of metal, which I bought on eBay years ago. So I've got the tools up there to do it. Now, you can also use cold water therapy, which is really good for breast health. Now, whether that is using cryo chambers or whether it's using hot cold water, the easiest way to start with that before you have to start investing in anything is just use cold water in your shower first. That is the easiest way to start. Okay, so just change the fluctuation of temperature in your shower and then change it back. And always start gently. There's a huge amount of press out there using kind of ice bucket challenges and dunking yourself in freezing cold water. But before you go into all this extreme stuff, just start by using your existing shower and just start doing the hokey cokey in the shower. Just get your legs in, your legs out. Okay, just get your arm in, your arm out, and slowly but surely build up. But it is a really, really useful thing for breast health. The other thing I like to do, if that sounds a bit much, is I will have I always have loads and loads of ice cubes in my freezer ready to go. So often in the morning, I will go down, just grab a bowl of ice cubes, come up, get myself a cold flannel, add some cold water, make a really icy, dunky cold water, and then use the cold flannel on this area around my breasts, because it's really, really good for firming up the breast tissue and decongesting any of this energy and this congestion that I've been talking about. And you can also use gua sha. So gua sha in this instance would be using the body gua sha tool, which is this one, which is a metal one. What I recommend you do is put oil. Don't gua sha the breast tissue itself. You need to go around the area. So gua sha over the sternum, over the chest, under the chest, okay? And then from the heart, you go outwards, as if you are literally drawing an arc out from the heart into the shoulder blades and the armpits. And then you go equally underneath the heart, going in another circle underneath, okay, all the way down. And then also you can gua sha from the armpit around, just like I've shown you with tapping. So gua sha around that area is really useful, as is gua shaing around the middle of the body. Now for that, you could use either the body restorer or a jade comb like this one, which has got the serrated edge. I personally find the jade comb is the best one for gua shaing around the middle. So you go from the spine, where the spine is opposite your belly button, that's your marker, and you go from the spine around to the front, and you go up. Don't go beyond the breast tissue. So when you start to get towards the breast tissue, that's the end of it. And then you go down, okay, from the back to the front. It's a very, very, very useful technique for strengthening up the liver and releasing all of that negative energy before it's had a chance to rise upwards and start potentially getting dumped in areas where we don't want it to congest. And last but by no means least, breath work, which we talked about earlier, can be taken further. So the minimum is to set a bell app on your phone to remind you to breathe. Literally, it is like Jane Fonda, don't forget to breathe, which we do all the time, okay? But then beyond that, try and incorporate meditation into your general self-care. Now, there is a free meditation class, which we can link to under this as well, which I've done for you. I think we're going to record some more ongoing anyway to work into the season, so there's plenty of them here on this platform. And meditation work is extremely good for calming the body, releasing this negative energy, and supporting these 5 key viscera, which have a massive role to play under the breast tissue itself, okay? So thank you so much for listening to this podcast today and watching it. Please don't forget to rate and review all of this on Apple Podcasts and follow on Spotify. Do please share this with your friends and family. The whole intention of this podcast is to get the information out there for you to help you. And so much of what I do here is completely free. So there's so many free fact sheets. There's also a free fact sheet on breast health as well, if you'd like more information. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube.